what he's trying to do.
Yeah, a lot can change in 7 weeks. Gentlemen, stick around. I want to bring in Congressman Tom Cole, Republican from Oklahoma, and the former chairman of the RNCC. Good to see you, Congressman. Good morning.
Chris, great to be with you.
I'm sure you've seen them. A lot of headlines this morning about how nervous Republicans are. And let me read to you part of what Peggy Noonan wrote today. I think there is a broad and growing feeling now among Republicans that this thing is slipping out of Romney's hands. It's time to admit the Romney campaign is an incompetent one. It's not big, it's not brave, it's not thoughtfully tackling great issues. She says it's time for an intervention. Is she right, Congressman?
I don't think so. Look, we're in the fourth quarter of a very close game, and every play is magnified. But I don't think we're going to be looking back at the end of the game and saying this was the decisive turning point. No question that Governor Romney would have said this differently had he thought he was speaking in public, and should have said it differently. But the fundamental point, I think, as Ron suggested, is right. This plays into the narrative of both parties. There is a big debate over the scope, the size, and the role of government. We think it ought to be smaller. We think we ought to be pushing policies that make the American people more in control of their own lives and more independent from government. I think that's what Mitt Romney's trying to do, and I think the decisive month's yet to come. It's going to be October. It's going to be the debates.
But as we said, it's making a lot of people who write those headlines and write op-ed pieces on the Republican side nervous. And Senator Scott Brown and Senate candidate Linda McMahon have both spoken out now against Romney's remark. And one Republican said that when a candidate is in trouble, members of Congress are the first rats off the ship. And using that to sort of, it's a funny line, but it's pointing out the fact that once you start seeing people distancing themselves from a campaign because they believe it's going to hurt their own campaign, that's when Republicans need to start to worry. I mean, when will you start to get seriously worried?
Honestly, in my state, Mitt Romney's going to win and win overwhelmingly. And I think that's true in a lot of parts of the country. Look, we are in a very close election. This is a lot like 2000 in that sense, or 2004, where each individual movement's magnified. I'm sure the president wishes he had back, you made that, or didn't make that remark. I'm sure he wished earlier in his career he hadn't talked about, guns and religion. But the fact is, he survived those remarks, won the last election. It's still in a strong position in this election. This is just not a game-changing event. I think the debates is where the swing voters make their first and really their final impression simultaneously. So we've got to do well there. But we're in a very competitive race. The president's not nearly as good a position as he was 4 years ago. We've got a great case to make. He's got a difficult environment. So, I wouldn't panic yet. I would be focused, and we just need to get the job done.
Let me ask you this question, because I think your experience at the head of the DNCC makes you particularly good to talk about money. I'm sorry, RNCC. My goodness.
Some of my critics thought I was on the other side, but not really.
Well, let's talk money in any case. Donors are getting a little bit nervous, and the campaign had some conference calls yesterday to talk to them to kind of calm their nerves. And I need to read for you another quote from Peggy Noonan. Romney's staff used to brag they had a lower burn rate. They were saving it up. For what? For the moment when Americans would rather poke out their eyeballs and stomp on the goo than listen to another ad. So let me ask you what you think, that given a series of problems for the Romney campaign they need to do, how do they get ahead of this? Is it ads? Is it more what he has to say? Does he need to spend less time raising money and more time on the stump? What do you think, Congressman?
Well, money's not going to be decisive in this race. Both sides have plenty of money, and frankly, the differences in the spending rate have more to do with Romney not being able to spend all his money till August than anything else. He literally couldn't spend a lot of what he had early. And that's unfortunate. The Obama campaign did a good job focusing. But if I were the Romney campaign, look, it's time to lay out specifics, to engage on the economy like a laser. That's the real issue here, jobs, the deficit, and how do we get economic growth going. You hold the Obama campaign and candidacy accountable for the promises they made and didn't keep. Look, the president
And do you think he's not articulated that well enough yet?
Not yet, but I think this is the time, is now going forward. We're in a very close race, as Ron said. This race can go either way. There's going to be lots of twists and turns, and we've got plenty of time left in this game. I think there's a little premature or panic going on. And look, it's going to be close to the end. We're never going to open up a lead where it's obvious. Ronald Reagan was in the head at this point in the campaign. I'm not surprised that Mitt Romney's not either, but he's in the best position to upset an incumbent since Bill Clinton in 1992. Nobody's been in a better position, and he can do it. But they do, obviously need to get the job done the next 48 days.
Republican Congressman Tom Cole, thank you so much for being with us. It's great to talk to you. Let me bring up Perry and Ron back in. I